All right, so this is my friend Blake Rudis. And basically, Blake's on here because Blake has already forgotten more about Photoshop than I have ever learned in my entire life. So he's my Photoshop coach, basically. And Blake, I wanted to show you, get your opinion on this little method of tweaking my shots of waterfalls. So it's kind of like dodging and burning, but not really. And I just wanted to see if you thought that this was valid, because I thought that this was a pretty cool little thing.
Before you begin, Gavin, if you change it from dodging and burning to burning and dodging, you're not doing anything different.
All right, just dodging then.
Okay.
All right, so here is my image in Adobe Camera Raw. So you can see I've done a few basic Adobe Camera Raw tweaks there. And I'm sure, Blake, that you already know of a method that I can use to zero all of these sliders quickly and easily, do you?
You just press Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and you click where it says light right next to it.
Oh, brilliant. I knew he'd have a solution for that. This is why he's here, right? Typically, what I will do, and I'm sure that everybody else does this with their RAW files, is the first thing that I fix is the highlights and the shadows. So obviously, if you look at this area here, those highlights are a little bit bright, right? And the whites are a little bit bright. I don't want them blown out. And then the shadows are quite dark, so I'll pump up the shadows just a little bit, and that fixes the histogram. The histogram's pretty happy with that, right? But what I've noticed, let me just undo that. So you said Alt and then click on light. Okay, so what I noticed when I do that, when I pull down my shadows and highlights, what it does overall to the image is it loses some of its contrast and its punchiness by pulling down, especially the whites and the highlights. Like if you look at this area of the waterfall there, again, I'll use Blake's cool little trick, Alt. Look at the waterfall. Look at that lovely contrast that we've got in the white ribbons of water against that black rock. When I pull down my highlights and my whites, it just kind of loses that. So yeah, it's corrected these super bright hotspots, but it's lost contrast in areas that I find important.
I would agree.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do was almost like a two-stage process here, and see what you think to this, see if you think this has any value. So I fixed those errors, which has come at the cost of losing contrast in the falls. I'll accept that. I'm going to open this in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Shift, my Shift key. I'm going to open this as a smart object into Adobe Photoshop, and it's going to drop it in as a layer there. So I now want to do kind of like a double process of this raw file. So I'm going to right click and go new smart object via copy, which basically duplicates that raw file. And if I double click on it, it launches it back into Adobe Camera Raw, and you can see it's retained all of those ACR tweaks, which again, using Blake's cool little gadget, Alt click. Now it's reset it. So that's brought back that lovely contrast. But of course, I don't like this area here. So I'm just going to accept that. I'm just going to click OK. So now in Photoshop, I've got two versions of the exact same raw file. One that has much more contrast. I've switched that off in the waterfall. So now you're seeing the corrected version underneath, which has lost contrast in the ribbons of water. But then when I switch back on the completely unprocessed version on top, it's brought back that lovely bit of water there, that lovely contrast in my ribbons. So now, Blake, I just thought what I would do is a simple layer mask and just mask out the bits that I don't like.
Very viable option, yes. The thing about Photoshop is there's like 500 ways to do the exact same thing. You have to do the smart object via copy, because if you don't, and you just try to duplicate it, when you double click to open it, and then you make an adjustment, it'll adjust both copies. So that is a good thing to note, is that you must do smart object via copy. So good job. You could use curves. That's a viable option. There's many different adjustment layers that you could do the same thing. However, when you go to save this file, smart objects take a lot of space up. So if this is already a large file to begin with, you're now going to end up with a very large file when you go to save. So as long as you're willing to accept that, then you're good to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, if I was going to struggle with hard drive space, I could always right click and choose rasterize layer to basically kill the smart object. You wouldn't be able to open it up again in Adobe Camera Raw, but you wouldn't have to worry too much about that file size. Well, I would, because these are bloody Hasselblad RAW files. They're absolutely massive. And Blake, you know who would have a problem with the way I've just done things there?
Who?
Miserable trolls.
Yes, they would. You just need a can of Troll Be Gone.
Where do I get one of those? Is there a link in the description?
There could be, but the trolls are going to click on it.
Also, I should mention, thanks for the hate watch, trolls. I know there's quite a few of you. So now I just want to mask in the parts of this newly processed raw file, which actually has no processing on it, with the one underneath that has a few corrections. So I'm just going to hold out Alt and click on that to turn that into a layer mask, which you don't see, of course, because it's black. So I'll get my brush, switch to white, and I'll use a smaller brush, holding my left bracket key, and it's a soft edged brush. So now I'm just going to brush in these parts of the waterfall here that bring back in that lovely bit of contrast. And it's that simple. That's all that I'm going to do here, just to make that pop a little bit. Now, it's probably looking quite subtle on this YouTube video, but to me, it's quite impressive. So if I switch that off, that's what I had before I masked in that unprocessed smart object layer, switch it back on, and that's brought back that lovely, delicious contrast. Now, Blake, is there anything that you could suggest during this process to make this video 20% less boring? I'll take that as a no.
No, there are options too that you might want to think about blend if for that. So again, we're talking about multiple ways that you can do the same thing in Photoshop. If you press and hold the Shift key on your mask just to temporarily turn it off.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you'll double click next to where it says copy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now if you take your current layer, or it depends on what you're trying to do. So we're trying to get the white back underneath, correct?
Yeah.
So if you go down to the underlying layer and you click on the black side.
Yeah.
And you move that to the right. Just keep moving it, keep moving it, keep moving it. Okay, boom, right there. Now, if you press the Alt or Option key and click on the left side of that toggle that you just had.
And then split
and
that.
then you can split it, and then you can feather that. So that can give you some more accuracy in that exact spot. You see that?
Yeah.
And then you get to dictate just how much comes through from either one of those layers. In context to what you're trying to do, I think that becomes a more viable option.
So that's like a fine-tuning option there.
And you could also incorporate a curve into that so that that curve only affects that layer also with those specific blend if settings and bring in even more contrast or less contrast in various areas.
Yeah, all right, Blake, let's not get too flashy here. This is a bit complicated, right? I don't want people to know the extent of my limits when it comes to Photoshop tweaks. So don't show off.
Well, we're just teaching them the difference between a smart object and a dumb object. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, Gavin, if anyone's interested, I have panels and stuff that make all this stuff really simple and easy for you.
Blake, you're not plugging your plugins. Did you get that? Plug in your plugins. It's quite funny, that.
Yeah. It is really good.
You know, I don't mind having you on as a guest, but don't be trying to sell your shit to my audience. It's a bit out of line.
Sorry. I'd prefer to sell your book. What's it called again?
Stories Within Stories. You've read it, haven't you?
I have a bookmark here. I've read it to that page. But I liked what I read so far. I loved it.
Do you think there's any other parts of this image I should just sort of dodge it? Maybe I should brighten that part up there. Oh, there you go. That's quite nice.
There you go.
It was a subtle shift. But one thing I might just do, Blake, is I just want to brighten that up there, which I've tried to do, but it just didn't work. So what do you think? A nice adjustment layer, curves adjustment layer?
Curves adjustment layer, yeah. And then take that to the extent that you want it to go. So how do you want that? How bright do you want that?
I want it to be outrageous, Blake. I'm going to have to invert that mask with Control-I and then just brush that in. Absolutely Bobby Dazzler. Look at that. Now we've got a bit more balance. Absolutely delicious.
You do. But think about what I just showed you with Blend If. Double click next to that curve.
So double click on that, go to Blend If.
And then you want to protect the underlying layers, what? Black areas.
So pull that up.
Okay. And then you can split that with Alt or Option.
Split with the Alt key. And then just refine that a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So now you're making sure that your mask that you brushed on those areas, while that was specific to those areas, what you're doing with this is you're refining that to say, hey, I don't want that mask to touch anything that's in my black areas of my image.
Whoa.
So with that feather, you can go from the feather is going to dictate how much spread you get from your dark areas into your highlight areas.
I do love a good spread. While I've got you on here, Blake, before I finish this image off, because let's be honest, it looks brilliant now. It's finished, really.
You've done wonderful work.
Is there anything else that you would tweak with this? Just one little final tweak.
I might add a little bit of sharpening to...
Sharpening? Are you smoking meth? Look, let me just zoom in here. Look how sharp that is. It's offensively sharp. Let's also have a look up. Look at that, Blake. You want to add sharpening to that? You're deranged.
I would still add a little bit.
You would, wouldn't you? Well, do you know, that was actually a test. I thought, you know, when I threw that out to you there, I thought you'd have a little something to say about this bit of ice down in this
I do not like that. Yeah.
corner.
I don't like that.
It's kind of distracting, isn't it?
And I don't like the thing underneath that rock either.
That little twig there.
I don't like those. Yeah, I would probably use their remove tool on those.
So now, bearing in mind that these are now smart objects, in order for me to clone those out, I've either got to rasterize those or stamp it down onto another layer. Either way, the trolls will be whinging. Ew, that's destructive editing.
You don't have to do either of those. I'll show you how you don't have to worry about the trolls.
Are you sure I don't have to worry about the trolls, Blake? Because they're out there.
They're gonna troll us regardless. Just go to the top layer.
Yeah.
The topmost layer. Add a new layer. Okay. Now you're gonna go over to your remove tool, which is gonna look like it should look like the Band-Aid right there, the remove tool right there. And just say got it. Just say okay.
Yeah,
and then
piss off.
don't do find distractions. Turn that off. This is like a bunch of the AI junk that Adobe's throwing in us. Up at the top where it says find distractions.
Yeah.
Go ahead and don't worry about that. Go over to mode.
Yeah.
Just turn generative AI off.
Oh, we don't want any interruptions from AI, do we? Miserable bastards.
Then what you're going to do here is you're going to go to sample all layers.
Yeah.
So, and then when you highlight over that, you'll see that there's a very important note there. Don't move too fast. You highlight over sample all layers.
Hang on, Zoom's getting in the way. Sorry. Right, yeah.
Sample content from all visible layers. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
nice.
what that means is that if you have any layers that are above this, though, it's going to sample from those and it's going to make it look like a giant circle. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is make sure that you're working on the topmost layer as you're working on your workflow. Because you might find later in your workflow, after you've done a couple other layers, that, oh, wait, there's other things I needed to remove.
Yeah.
You're going to need to add a new one on the top of that. So now what you can do is you can make your brush the size you need to make it.
So I'll increase my brush size to something like that. Yeah, that's oh, there we go. I've got my right bracket key back. Okay, so that's probably big enough to get rid of that, right? So just click and drag.
Yep, click and drag, and then you're going to
Ooh.
It's going to get rid of it. And then you go over top of that little thing that looks like the rock is peeing. Take away his pee.
Oh, look at that. And that's now all on a separate layer above all of those. So I didn't have to rasterize them.
But here's the important note. Go back to your, so underneath of this, put a curve underneath it, just so I can show you for giggles. All right, put a curve on.
Just go to there, curves, yep.
All right, now move the curve down. Just make it really dark. I just want to show you something.
Just dark shadows, eh?
Yep, just as far as you can make it.
Oh.
Now you see see the reason. So you need to be cognizant of that because now the things that you removed are based off of the things that were under it before.
Ah, yes.
You see that? Right. So that's just a little bit of, gee whiz information because a lot of people will be like, I was using the remove tool and then this thing happened and I don't know what happened. Well, yeah. It's the order of operations. So now just know that if you're going to do anything underneath that layer, you may have to redo that layer.
All right. So another reason why I've invited Blake on here is to introduce him to my audience because Blake and I recently spent one very painfully long week together down in Montana to film this new course that we've called Make Great Shots. And what's good about this new course is it's completely collaborative, right from where we decided to shoot, the compositions that we shot, and then how we post-process the image. We argued over everything. Well, actually, we didn't really do that much arguing, did we? Did we, Blake?
No, we didn't.
That's coming out potentially at the end of March. If you're interested in getting on the newsletter, I'll put a link in the description. You can sign up. And one thing that Blake set up for this course is, because he's quite competitive, he created this ridiculous award for one of us to win. What do you call it, Blake?
F64 Academy's best photographer in the world.
The best photographer in the world, recognized by absolutely zero official bodies. And the way that we're going to determine who wins that award is to get votes from you guys. So you're just going to vote one image or the other. Maybe every week or two we'll put these out. So if you want to do us a favor, well, do me a favor, because obviously I'm going to win this thing. Just click on the link that I've put in the description, cast your vote, and let us know which one you think deserves this horrendous looking prize. All right, Blake. Well, thanks for coming on, mate. I do appreciate your input on this, and I'm glad that you liked my little weird method of dodging there. I think it works quite well for images like this.
It can, for sure. There's many different ways to do the same thing in Photoshop, and you just outlined the worst one. I mean, you just outlined another one.
Yeah, thanks for that. Who needs trolls when you've got friends like Blake?
Oh, hey, Gavin. Well, while I got you here, hold on one second.
Yeah.
I sent you an email like 3 weeks ago with the gas invoice.
Oh, the gas costs. Yeah.
If you could pay that, that'd be awesome, because
leave.
I've got 3 kids and they really would like to eat.
Bye.